There's a new game in development that might be a competitor for No Man's Sky, and it's called Star Reach. I'm Controlled Chaos, and in this video, I'm going to go over why and what the differences and similarities of these games are. Let's get started. First off, Star Reach is a game that's in development made by several MMO veterans. And you might know some of these guys. We have Raph Costner, who worked on Ultima Online and Star Wars Galaxies. We have Dave Jerensen, who worked on EverQuest and EverQuest Landmark and EverQuest Next. And these guys, along with the team that they've built, are working on Star Reach, which is a sci-fi space MMO. Now, what the similarities between the two are is the fact that, well, there's sci-fi, there's space, but there's more than that. The fact is, in Star Reach, you can manipulate the terrain of planets. The manipulation feels somewhat, from what they're showing in footage, like No Man's Sky, but the difference is they state that they want the manipulation of the ground to be consistent, to not pop back up and regenerate. And that's interesting. The next thing that's similar to it is both of them have base building in it. So you have that factor. They're both going to have crafting, but it's going to be a bit different in the crafting. I'll explain more when I talk a bit more about the differences. Then there's the flying in space and finding other planets and going to different solar systems. That's the same. I'm going to start with the differences, continuing with talking about flying and going to different planets and solar systems. The difference there is the fact that we have quadrillions of planets in No Man's Sky and a bunch of solar systems and galaxies to explore. I mean, heck, there's 256 galaxies to explore in No Man's Sky. In Star's Reach, there's only going to be thousands of planets. So it's not going to be as vast to explore, which in all honesty, I don't see as a bad thing, considering only about 1 to 5% of Euclid, after 7 years, has been explored, and Euclid is the first galaxy you're in, and not many people have gone beyond Euclid. So that's really important to say there. So the longevity of the exploration for No Man's Sky, it has a good amount of longevity due to the fact that only 5% of the first galaxy has been explored, and you have 256 other galaxies to explore. Now, granted, there are a lot of the same life forms you'll run into, a lot of the same plants and things like that, but considering the fact that Hello Games, the developers of No Man's Sky, are constantly adding new things into the game, they could add in more diverse plants and rocks and life forms into the game for us to find and explore in the future. We don't know. Just like we don't know a lot about Star Reach besides what the developers have told us. The other difference is that with crafting and combat in No Man's Sky, it's as long as you know the recipe, you can craft it. As long as you have the right weapon, you can do combat. You can do mining, you can do resource gathering and things like that. Star Reach is taking more of it sounds like from the developers, a look at Star Wars Galaxies, considering that Raph Costner is the one that worked on that system, and he loved that system. It was one of his favorite systems to work on. They're going to lean more towards that direction where it's skilled based. So if you have a blaster, you need to use the blaster a lot to enhance your skill with it, to enhance your accuracies and capabilities with it. Same thing with crafting. They had different crafters in there. They had weapons crafters, armor crafters, bioengineers to make mounts and pets. They had starship engineers and stuff like that. They had architects to build buildings. And so all those took skills, and you had to build up those skills to get the new blueprints and improve the skills in making those things. But the great thing is that when someone crafted something in Star Wars Galaxies, they could modify it to change how much damage something did, what the durability of it was, and stuff like that. And that's really, really important, and what also separates out the two different crafting systems there. When we talk about the world and how it interacts and stuff like that, and flying around, the developers of Star Reach have stated that they want to be as close to realistic physics as possible, with a caveat. If for some reason they find a different physics setting that's more fun for the game and more enjoyable for the players, they're going to take that over the realistic physics. And that's for the pure simple fact that they want the game to be fun. They want the game to be enjoyable. So if for some reason they don't like the realistic flight physics and they find players enjoy another type of flight physics, they'll go with that. And that I really, really like. I'm the same type of developer. I like to go with fun physics over realistic physics. Now, the art direction they're taking the game is a hand-painted art design, just like we see in No Man's Sky. But I actually think that's a good thing. And the reason I think that is a good thing is because hand-painted textures last over time compared to realistic textures. And the reason being is because as time advances and we get better realistic texturing capabilities and stuff like that, it dates the past realistic textures. Look at the realistic textures from 10 years ago. They look bad compared to the current realistic textures. If you look at a game from over 10 years ago, let's even go further back. Let's go 2004. Let's look at World of Warcraft, and let's look at City of Heroes. Look at the textures in those games. They still look good. The models aren't the best because of the geometry that was allowed at the time, but we're looking at the textures, not the models. So with the textures look good. You can tell what's metal, you can tell what's wood, you can tell what's stone, you can tell what's plastic, things like that. That's what's mattered. And they're going to most likely be using geometry capabilities of the current standard. So you're not going to have the mitten hands that you have in World of Warcraft and City of Heroes. No, you're going to get better geometried models, which will be nice. What's going to concern me is the fact that the morphing of the terrain in Star Reach is a permanent thing. I'm worried that a bunch of people are going to go and just harvest everything, the ground all up, and just leave the bedrock of the planet, and we have nothing left to harvest up. And that could kill the game there. Just like how in Ultima Online, they originally had it to where the ecosystem relied on one another.
You can care for the grass, so the grass will all become, herbaceous again. And conversely, players could kill either the herbivores, which we thought in our mind's eye they wouldn't do very much because there wasn't much value in those herbivores. And instead, we assumed that they would tend to fight the carnivores. Frankly, the service didn't work. What we discovered the moment the game went live was that players ran over the world like a swarm of ants that consumed every living thing as fast as it was possible to spawn it.
They're planning on, doing sort of the same thing, but the difference is that they're going to balance out the respawns and stuff like that, hopefully a bit better. But I don't think it's going to be as big of a problem. The players aren't confined in such a small space that Ultima Online originally launched in. There's going to be thousands of planets to go to and to explore on, and that I think will be the saving grace to hold that back for a long term. Because I calculated it out, and for some reason, Star Reach gets 10 million people per planet. That's only 4,500 people per planet. And that's if they go with, let's say, 4,000 planets. And so you're not going to have that devastation that you would have unless everyone seems to go to the same planet. And that would take a lot of coordination to do. So that worry's left aside. My worry is what will happen to No Man's Sky when this game launches if it has what No Man's Sky has for space exploration in a way, and the crafting and the building and stuff like that. I think that players will stick with No Man's Sky and play Star Reach if it interests them, for the pure simple fact that what Hello Games has done with the expeditions. They'll come back and they'll do the expedition because they're fun to do. It gives you a bit of story, it gives you a bit of direction to go. But also, if the developers of No Man's Sky add in more different types of foliage, more different types of rocks, more different types of creatures to scatter throughout the universe that they've created of these multiple galaxies and stuff like that, then it gives players a reason to come back even more to find these new creatures, to find these new rocks, to find this new foliage and stuff like that for the fun of it, to be the one that was the first to find it. And that's the other saving grace that No Man's Sky has. When you find something and you upload it to the server and you're the first to find it, you get to name that thing and you're stated as the person that discovered it. I don't think Star Reach will have that. I don't know. They haven't said anything about that. But I think that's the other saving grace and direction that Hello Games could take No Man's Sky, is by adding in more things that look different to discover. That's my overall thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on the threat of Star Reach to No Man's Sky? Let me know in the comments down below. Have a great day.